So, on Tuesday evening, I was nearly arrested by security at DePaul University. My crime? I set foot on campus. On Wednesday evening, protesters tried to shut down a lecture I was giving at University of Wisconsin in Madison, and police officers were told to stand down by the administration. Now, the problem on America's college campuses is not just the snowflake college students. Since the 1960s, there have always been lots of young people insistent on quashing free speech and destroying campus freedom. But just as in the 1960s, it actually takes cowardly administrators to make a leftist fascist dream come true. That was the story at DePaul. Months ago, the alt-right popularizer Milo visited DePaul, where protesters greeted him by taking over the stage and screaming at him and threatening violence, and security didn't do anything. The administration responded by banning both Yiannopoulos and me. They added me because students at Cal State Los Angeles had nearly rioted when I visited. This week, I showed up at DePaul at the invitation of the Young America's Foundation group on campus. The administration made clear that they'd shut down the event if I was a speaker, so the group attempted to register me as a guest. The administration blocked that. So we attempted to register me as a member of fellow speaker Christina Hoff Sommers' team. The administration blocked that too. In an unprecedented move, expecting my arrival, they mandated that everybody wear special wristbands and be screened by metal detectors so they could ensure that I didn't end up in the hall. When I showed up, I was confronted by about 30 security guards from the university. There were 5 or 6 local cops present as well as the sheriff from Cook County to facilitate an arrest if security decided to move on me. And they did openly threaten me with arrest if I attempted to attend Christina's lecture. You can see the video at dailywire.com. Here's the amazing thing. There were no protesters. None. Not a single one. But the administration was so intent on placating protesters who didn't even show up, they banned me personally from entering a campus to give a speech on free speech. By the way, that was just the beginning. Last night at UW-Madison, student protesters stood up every few minutes and began screaming safety and shame to disrupt. I'll show you the video in just a few minutes. They'd been planning it for days. They even had a secret Facebook group titled F White Supremacy, Interrupting Ben Shapiro. Why didn't security clear them out, even when they marched down to the front of the stage and attempted to block me physically from the audience? Well, because the administration had told university police not to remove the protesters at all. And if they had removed the protesters, they should shut down the entire event. You getting this? So if the protesters disturb things, the police can't remove them. And if they do remove them, they have to remove everybody. That would mean 20 protesters could simply stick around and by doing so prevent 450 people who'd spent all day waiting from hearing a lecture on free speech. As UW student Jordan Zadra said, this mentality gives protesters a license to shut down any speech they don't like. This is the rioters' veto, and it only exists thanks to the cowardice of administrators. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. And we open, of course, by saying hello to our advertisers over at Texture.com, Texture.com/Ben. So if you're somebody who wants to binge read, right? You're not just a binge watcher like Netflix or a binge eater. You're a binge reader. You just need to read all the time. But you don't really want to buy separate subscriptions to 1,000 different newspapers and magazines. You need Texture.com. Texture.com is fantastic. It is an app, and once you go to Texture, it allows you to get articles and backlogs from the world's most popular magazines anytime, anywhere, using your smartphone or your tablet. And right now, you get a free trial right now when you go to Texture.com/Ben. You get immediate entry to all of the top magazines. You get the back issues. You get bonus video content. You start binge reading right now, free. Go to Texture.com/Ben. I love it. I use it myself. I am, as you know, one of the world's most prolific readers, and so Texture.com has made it significantly more easy for me to get all the articles that I want to read from great magazines. And the list of magazines is virtually endless. I mean, it's all my sports magazines, it's all my news magazines. I mean, it's everything from Sports Illustrated, and I don't have to even subscribe to Sports Illustrated anymore. I just go to Texture and I can get access to their articles, to other magazines like some of the news magazines like Time, The New Yorker, which is fun to read for kicks and giggles if you're a conservative. But Texture.com is the name of the app, and you go to Texture.com/Ben. You get that free trial right now. Check it out, see if you like it, and then if you like it, keep it. So here we go. All right, lots to get to. So we start with my experiences at University of Wisconsin last night in Madison. And it was pretty amazing. So after DePaul tried to arrest me, DePaul also threatened to shut down the entire event if I went in. So I went over to University of Wisconsin at Madison. And while I was at University of Wisconsin at Madison, we found out hours in advance there were going to be a bunch of protest groups. The rumor was there were going to be 2 Black Lives Matter groups, and there was also going to be a white supremacist group, which has been about the state of my year. And so they told us all this, and they told us they were only assigning 3 cops, right? 3 cops for like 500 people and a bunch of protesters. If this sounds like a bad idea, that's because it is a terrible idea. It's truly an awful idea. And it was designed to be an awful idea. As I say, the administration told the cops to stand back and let all of this happen. And they said that if I said that people had to, be moved out, or if there was an attempt to make an arrest, they would have to actually shut down the entire event and empty the hall. So get rid of 450 people because 20 people decided to disrupt. Well, things didn't go precisely how the protesters wanted. They started standing up and shouting and interrupting. They walked down to the front of the stage. But the crowd was not having any of it, and neither was I. Here is a montage of some of the better moments from last night's lecture at University of Wisconsin at Madison. It's time. The folks, in case you hadn't noticed, the folks with the swastikas aren't too nice to my type. And by the way, I'm fully aware of this private Facebook page titled F White Supremacy Interrupting Ben Shapiro. Well, with all due respect, F you right back, gang.
White supremacy! Get out! Yo, your baby needs to hear
It's like Game of Thrones. Should I get undressed and walk down the aisle? Decency. 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 Decency.
free speech matters! Free speech matters! Safety!
Okay, so it was good times, as you can see all around. Eventually, they left. The double flip-off was in response to the fact that all of the protesters, as they were leaving, were shouting F white supremacy and flipping off everybody in the hall, including me. So it was just a joy. I did enjoy the students there are fantastic. They were really good-natured. And it does tell you something about why the Trump phenomenon happened. It really does. What it tells you is that people don't care about the response nearly as much as they care about the fact that the left can't control itself. The left simply cannot control itself. They are out of their minds. And because of that, people have reacted to that by saying, screw all you people, we're not going to do anything you want. Even if somebody is a bad person, like Trump was during the primaries and the general, even if someone says ridiculous things, you don't have the right to stand on ceremony since you've been saying this stuff about everybody, including Mitt Romney. So you keep saying to us, F you, you're white supremacists. Well, F you all, and we'll elect Trump just to show you. Now, do I think that that's the best response? No, I don't. But I do think that it's a justifiable and understandable is a better word. An understandable response by people. And I have that same response. I do. I have the same feeling of, you guys can't control yourselves. You can't engage in the nature of Western civilization. You can't do any of it. And then you turn around and you blame us when things go wrong. You can all go to hell. And that was sort of the feeling last night. There was a real feeling of brotherhood inside the room between all of the people who stayed and toughed it out. This is like a 25-minute thing. I mean, they shut it down. They were yelling. They were screaming. They were shouting shame. They were also shouting safety at one point. When they were chanting safety, I said a couple of things. They chanted safety, and I said, number one, you are safe. You're all making trouble right now, and nobody's punching you. That's America. That's great. And then they continued to shout safety, at which point I just said, I don't understand who farted. But in any case, you can see why this drove the Trump movement. You can see why it drove the right to victory in this election. And you can see why, if the left keeps playing this game, they're playing with fire politically. Kellyanne Conway, I think, actually summed it up pretty well. She's the spokesperson, obviously, for the Trump campaign. And here's what she had to say.
But, we're just treating these adolescents and these millennials like precious snowflakes. I'm just amazed how many texts and emails I'm receiving as one person of all these professors saying you don't have to take the test, you can get college credit if you protest. What's the worst thing that can happen to these millennials? That Donald Trump will make good on his promise to create 25 million new jobs, that he'll unleash energy investment, that he'll get rid of the Obamacare penalty on day one so that you're not forced to buy government-run health care. Okay, so look, I think that she's exaggerating the case for all the things that Trump's going to do for millennials, but, and I understand why millennials don't like Trump. They don't like the language that he uses or the things that he said, but the precious snowflake idea, we're just going to shut it down, we can't go to class, we can't participate in normal society, we can't actually take tests, we have to get out of essays, all of this is a bunch of crap. And people react to it as you would expect them to, which is, grow up. Grow up.
get a life, grow up, stop being such babies. And that's totally understandable. It really is. And Ted Cruz gets it right, too. Cruz was on TV yesterday, and he said that all these protests against Donald Trump, they're showing that hypocrisy is on rank display from the left.
We have seen hypocrisy on rank display from the left. All of the folks who jumped on their high horse and were lecturing to President-elect Trump, you've got to accept the results of the election. Look, these are now the idiots that are protesting in the street and laying their bodies down in front of cars and disrupting traffic. We had an election. The people spoke. Democracy is a powerful, powerful way of choosing. Right. And you know, I think Americans across this country, and I think this is across the line of Republicans, of Democrats, of independents, of libertarians. I think Americans are excited about the opportunity to have an administration that actually protects our rights, that brings back jobs.
Okay, and Cruz is right that, of course, the people did speak, and these people are making trouble. It's just driving more people into Trump's open arms. I mean, as I said yesterday, I, who really do not like Steve Bannon, am now in the position of defending Steve Bannon because of the media overreach. I, who did not vote for Donald Trump, am in the position of rooting hard for Donald Trump to stop these kinds of people because, come on, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. You shut down traffic. You act like babies. And last night, I actually led off the speech by saying I brought a diaper and some safety pins. I said, you guys want to wear safety pins? I brought something that you can use also, and it's a diaper. And I said, you know, the first thing is, if you want to have a discussion, let's have a discussion. If you want to act like babies, please leave. I said, don't act like babies. And the first thing they do is they start interrupting and shouting like my 2-year-old. All of this is deeply frustrating. All of it is deeply upsetting. The fact the administration goes along with it is also even more upsetting. These are people in position of power who should know better. The rest of the state of Wisconsin looks at Madison and they say, you people are out of your minds. No wonder we're going to vote for Donald Trump. And it's the entire left now. The entire left has reacted to Trump with such insanity. And I think they probably would have reacted about 70% the same if it had been somebody like Cruz or Rubio. But the fact that they're reacting the way they are to Trump, it actually is just making people more likely to ignore them. Vicente Fox, the former president of Mexico, just a few months ago, he was cursing at Trump. We're not going to build your effing wall. And now he's calling Trump illegitimate. Do you think that drives Americans into or away from the arms of Donald Trump?
How could people in power in Mexico do business with him?
Right now, I think he's an illegitimate president of the United States.
Why is he illegitimate? He just won an election.
He would have to legitimize. He didn't win the general election, so he's got too many people against him, and they have shown out on the streets. But anyway, in Mexico, we can be rude also. As I said, we're strong now. We're going to defend our people wherever they are, in Mexico or outside of Mexico in the United States. We're not going to let this guy to offend them anymore, to offend their dignity, and more so to deny the enormous contribution they make to U.S. economy.
Okay, so you see Vicente Fox saying, we're going to stand up for all the illegal immigrants, and we're going to stand up against Donald Trump. And Americans go, why do we want to hear from the former president of Mexico about why you're going to stand up for illegal immigrants in the United States when Mexico is making a lot of money off of remittances from illegal citizens living in the United States? Why is that a good thing? By the way, it's also funny to watch Vicente Fox pretend that Donald Trump is the only vulgarian when literally right behind him is a portrait of Vicente Fox and his wife. I've never actually been in a place where I wanted someone to paint my portrait, but if I did, I probably wouldn't hang it behind me during interviews. It seems kind of weird. Meanwhile, the Democrats continue to demonstrate their hypocrisy on every level. Josh Earnest over at the White House, he's already ripping into Trump. He's saying that Trump is undermining our NATO alliances. Now, there's truth to this. I mean, Donald Trump spent a lot of the primaries talking about how the members of NATO weren't paying up and that we would abandon them if they didn't pay their fair share. What people are forgetting, by the way, is that when you say to countries, not just in NATO, but across the world, that if you guys don't pay us more money, then we're going to abandon you, China is willing to pay them that money in Southeast Asia in order to make them allies, right? Russia is willing to bribe countries in order to exert influence. We're not the only players in this game. It's not just a matter of you pay us money or we'll abandon you. There are other players who are going to seek to fill that vacuum. But Josh Earnest says that supporting our NATO allies is a long-standing tradition. He just can't believe that Trump wouldn't do it.
President Obama has made the case for is the long-standing, strong, bipartisan tradition of strong relations between the United States and our NATO allies. And President Obama certainly dedicated a significant portion of his presidency to making sure that that relationship was deepened, that that relationship was strengthened in a way that had enormous and significant national security and economic benefits for the American people. And there certainly is a tradition of presidents in both parties choosing to pursue that, but ultimately President-elect Trump will have to determine what sort of path he wants to chart from here.
Okay, and of course that's not even true. I mean, Obama has undermined NATO routinely. He didn't do anything when Ukraine was invaded by Russia. He didn't do anything to defend the Baltic states when Putin is threatening them. He removed the missile defense system from Poland, even though they were asking for it. He removed it from the Czech Republic, even though they were asking for it. The idea that Obama has stood up for NATO, that he's some sort of hawk on foreign policy, is just laughable. Today, Obama was overseas meeting with Angela Merkel, and he was spending time talking about how Trump needs to stand up to Russia. From the guy who's been bending over backwards for Russia, from the guy who drew a red line with the Syrians and then backed off of it and let Russia take over the place. From the guy who's let Russia, again, take over Crimea. From the guy who's allowed Vladimir Putin to become a world figure again. Right? That guy is lecturing Trump. And so normal people look at this and they say, you don't get to lecture anybody. Go screw yourselves. I really think that Trump is, and we'll see what he becomes, but for now, what Trump is a giant pulsating middle finger right at the left, right at the heart of the left. And they deserve it. They do deserve it. There is justice for the left in the fact that Donald Trump is president. Does that mean that he's going to be wonderful? I don't know yet. I don't think so. That's why I didn't vote for him. But we will find out, and we'll find out in January. We'll get to some of his cabinet picks and what he's doing right now, some of which is very clever. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But the left continues to just make mockeries of themselves. Like, here's the ACLU director, and he says that opposing Donald Trump is going to be what the ACLU is all about.
Well, he's going to try. And he might get part of the way through, and then we'll definitely claw him back. Let's take the ban on immigrants or the deportation of immigrants. 11 million people he wants to deport. On Sunday, 60 Minutes, he said he wants to focus on 2 to 3 million of the immigrants who broke the law.
Immediately, yeah.
How's he going to find them? The criminals are not just lined up in some database who happen to be immigrants. He's going to have to comb through immigrant communities. How's he going to have to do that? Through dragnet searches, through unlawful searches and seizures. Do you think the Department of Homeland Security is going to say, oh, you undocumented immigrant, let me see if you're a criminal. Oh, no criminal? Walk free. Mm-hmm. You think they're going to let the undocumented immigrants who don't have a criminal records just slip away? We're in for the fight of our lives. And when the president-elect said on Sunday that he's still going to try to deport 2 to 3 million people, he's talking dragnet, unconstitutional searches and seizures that will violate the 4th Amendment, the 5th Amendment, the 14th Amendment. And what's going to be so intense for us is that we have to document those cases. This is not something you can bring a class action lawsuit on behalf of all the undocumented immigrants. You have to go and show the cases and the fact patterns, talk to the clients, depose people, make sure you have all the important work that will go into the necessary litigation.
Romero lecture us about legality. The ACLU is a hypocritical organization. They spent the entire Obama administration doing nothing about Obama's violation of civil liberties, everything from the IRS targeting conservatives to the DOJ targeting the Associated Press. And the ACLU had virtually nothing to say about any of this. Trump has not talked about dragnets, at least not in a while. When Trump says he wants to deport criminal illegal immigrants, he's talking about the same people Obama says he wants to deport. I didn't see the ACLU talking about how Obama couldn't deport criminals because he'd have to impose a dragnet. Right? They're reading into Trump something that he never said. But again, it's all hypocrisy. It's all over the top. It's all the left cannot just deal with the fact that there are things they don't like about Trump. He has to be turned into Super Hitler, who's going to send his SS goon squads into illegal immigrant communities and start rounding people up. And my bet is that he actually doesn't do any of that stuff. That when all is said and done, Donald Trump ends up imposing pretty much the plan that Jeb Bush wanted to impose, which was shut the border, figure out what to do with the people here. I think that's pretty much what Trump will look like. I don't think we're talking mass deportations. I think that was all for show. I don't think we'll see what happens. But the ACLU is certainly jumping the gun on all of this stuff. Now, the media still can't deal with the fact that Donald Trump won, and so they're just making fools of themselves. We'll get to all of that in just a minute. But first, we have to say hello to a new advertiser. They spoke with some of the founders of this company. It's called Legacy Box. Legacy Box is fantastic. Okay, so if you're somebody who has a bunch of old video, a lot of videotapes like VHS recordings, or you have old film reels, or even if you have DVDs, and you want to compile all your old memories onto a memory stick, on a memory drive, but particularly if you have the VHS or the DVDs, you have pictures that you want to get converted over to digital, very time-consuming, very expensive. My family just did it with some of my childhood videos, and it was very, very pricey. Legacy Box helps make this happen for you in a quick, affordable, and convenient way. So here's how it works. You take Legacy Box, you get in contact with them at legacybox.com/Ben. And they send you a box, and you put in all your old tapes, your film, pictures, audio recordings. You send them everything, and then you get everything back in a couple of weeks on DVD or on a thumb drive. So instead of you having to worry about there's a fire in the house, grab all the memories, everything is on a thumb drive, everything is on a DVD for you. It's ready to watch, it's ready to share. It's a beautiful thing to do for your parents, by the way. It's a beautiful thing to do for your grandparents. And it's a great thing to do to preserve all those childhood memories so the moths don't get at them, or so that age doesn't weather the film and destroy your childhood. And that's what Legacy Box is for. They take care of everything. They put a barcode on every item so that you can trace where it is in the process of uploading and editing. And 250,000 families have used them. It's a really great service. I trust them with my memories. I think that they're going to be an amazing company. It's legacybox.com/Ben to get a 40% discount on your order. Again, legacybox.com/Ben, 40% discount on your order. Perfect Christmas present for mom and dad. Perfect Christmas present for the rest of the family. These are things that you're going to want to keep forever, and that means that you have to put them in a storable place where they're not going to degrade and where you don't have to dig through boxes and boxes of tapes in order to get what you want. So everything gets uploaded digitally. Great company, great idea. I'm very, very big into the idea that you ought to preserve your family memories, and there's a great way to do it. It's legacybox.com/Ben to get that 40% discount on Legacy Box. Really first-rate company. Couldn't be prouder to be advertising with them.